welcome to Wildly Curious, a podcast that tells you everything you need to know about nature and probably more than you wanted to know. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy, and today we're going to talk about how we used to launch crap into space, and by crap, animals. Just launching animals into space. Yeah, not with slingshots and stuff, but rockets and all the different animals that have basically shaped our understanding of life in outer space before we could get there.
Laid the groundwork for man, for sure. Like, we couldn't have done it without them.
Yeah.
And their sacrifices.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the sacrifices. That's all. That's pretty much what I got from this. Is just the sacrifices. Just the sacrifices of animals.
So guys, I would say that we're gonna do these as our mini-sodes. So you'll get little stories every other week about these. But trigger warning, at least on most of mine, there is this is kind of like a throwback to our original listeners with Mad Science, where we were like, there's some trigger warnings here about animal death. All right.
Yeah.
Be warned.
There's a lot of that here because we're launching animals into space. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of that there. So again, like Laura said, these are going to be mini-sodes. So we're going to jump back and forth. I'm going to do this week. Laura will take 2 weeks from now because next week will be a regular episode. And then we're just going to keep bouncing back and forth. Alrighty.
What's your first one?
So the first one that I'm going to talk about is, I think it's how you pronounce it, is Laika.
Okay.
And it was one of the first animals into space.
Probably,
a dog.
Yeah, one of the most, if you know about animals being launched into space, it could be this one.
Yeah, it could be this one.
Well, there's 2 really famous ones, although even those two I actually don't know that much about.
No, and in this one, they definitely sent other animals into space before, but Laika was, and I'll get into it, but Laika was the first one to legitimately be in space and not just launched via a rocket and then it exploded on the way up. I don't know how else to. She successfully made it to space, is I guess what you should say. So Laika's story begins in the 1940s and 50s as the U.S. and the Soviet Union raced literally to get to space.
And I feel like that's why people don't know that much about these guys anymore, is because it's so taken for granted. Like the space race isn't as much of a thing anymore. We've kind of let that one slide. And so kids these days, they don't know about us launching things on rockets.
Launching animals into space. But the early experiments included fruit flies, like I said, other things, that they were sent up and basically captured German V-2 rockets. Fruit flies were chosen for their simplicity. They were small, lightweight, and already well-studied in genetics. So they were well-studied here on Earth, and so then we could send them up into space and be like, okay, I understand what this is doing and everything, so it made it a lot easier.
Fruit flies was a good first choice.
You know what? I think so. Very basic. Nobody cares.
Nobody.
You're not going to hear a protest over fruit flies. It's going to be fine. However, from fruit flies, they then went up to larger animals.
I was going to say, don't go into too much.
No, I won't. They started sending monkeys, mice, frogs were sent skyward, and each mission pretty much built on the data from the last. Mm-hmm. As one was launched and died in space, then they were like, okay, lessons learned from this one. Now let's go on to this one.
Although it was very much country specific, right? Because this is a race.
Very much so.
So we're not sharing our info with Russia. They're not sharing their info with us.
Yeah, it was very much so hush hush because it's a race, and so nobody. Which every time I'm going to say that now, Mr. Bean and the rat race movie, it's a race. Yeah, it's such a good movie. So Laika was a stray dog from the streets of Moscow, chosen to become a cosmonaut during the Soviet Union's space race with the U.S. Small, resilient, and calm under pressure, Laika fit the criteria for a spacebound pioneer.
I feel like that's also you.
Yeah. But also imagine being this sweet stray, comes in off the street. You're like, you know what? I'm small. I'm resilient, calm under pressure. She's like, I'm going to make the perfect dog for a family.
They're like,
and she's just now launched into space.
Yeah, but also, I feel like, I can't believe that Disney has never made a movie about Laika.
Right?
We did Bolto. Shout out to Bolto, a great movie. Maybe it's because it's Russian, but
maybe
it would be a great story from the dog's point of view, right? Again, because from streets to space. That's literally what the name of the movie should be called. Okay, there you go, guys.
From the streets to space.
She is just a street dog stray. And then all of a sudden she's chosen to be an astronaut? Like, that's something that, it would be such a good movie.
It would be. It would be. Pixar,
there you go.
Pick it up
from
us.
Streets to Space.
Yeah. Right? So, Laika's story begins with the launch of Sputnik 2 on November 3rd, 1957, just 1 month after the success of Sputnik 1, which was the first artificial satellite. Laika wasn't just a passenger, she was part of the mission designed to test whether a living creature could survive long-term in space. Sputnik 2 wasn't equipped to return her safely to Earth, something scientists and the public did know, but the mission aimed to gather critical data for future human spaceflight.
Poor Laika.
So it was, and times were different then, people,
well, she was
they
a
were
street
like,
dog. They were like, it's not someone's pet.
Yeah, so they were, well, I don't even think they would care then.
Probably
you know what I
not.
mean? Because things were just very different back then. So training for space, before her flight, Laika underwent very rigorous training. She and other dog candidates were kept in increasingly small enclosures to simulate the cramped conditions of the spacecraft, which I'm just like, can you imagine, like, this dog is just like, are the walls getting closer? Like, I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, they just don't know to get them used to it. They were also trained to remain calm during loud noises and extreme vibrations, mimicking the stress of launch. Laika was fitted with a harness and a monitoring equipment to track her heart rate, respiration, and movement. Despite the challenging conditions, Laika adapted remarkably well. Her calm demeanor made her an ideal candidate, and she was ultimately the one chosen for the first dog to orbit. So she was taken off the streets, put through all these tests and everything.
Went to space
to
camp.
then see... Yeah, basically went to space camp, and then they were like, this dog, this is the one. So on November 3rd, 1957, Laika was secured in her capsule aboard Sputnik 2 and launched into orbit. The spacecraft reached speeds of over 17,000 miles an hour, propelling her into the history books as the first living creature into the orbit of Earth. So it was like the first one that like was actually in orbit.
Orbital, right, not suborbital.
Yes, orbital. Yeah, like actually like in space.
Yeah.
For the first few hours, Laika's vital signs showed she was calm. Through the stress of the flight eventually caused her heart rate to spike. Tragically, though, the spacecraft overheated due to a malfunction, and Laika's life ended within just a few hours of launch. And of course it's heartbreaking because you're like, the dog died, but then at the same time, it's like, they were, at least for science reasons, because they all knew she was going to go and not come back. Yeah. But it was supposed to be studying the long-term effects of space. And it wasn't long-term. It was very short-term, a few hours. So they were obviously disappointed through that. So Laika's legacy, her story obviously began both heroic and bittersweet. Her mission confirmed that living organisms could survive the launch and briefly function in space, which paved the way for human spaceflight. Because again, it wasn't her. It's not like her heart rate spiked and then she died and they're like, what happened? What on earth happened? Right. I guess humans can't survive in space. No, the Sputnik exploded. So they knew, or it overheated and blew up, and so they knew it was mechanical. It wasn't her. Right. So it was definitely, hey, this can be successful. Let's go ahead and launch humans next. So Laika's story remained definitely, the path of understanding for the Soviets, because again, at the time we didn't know about it, but it was, like I said, the first actual large organism to orbit space.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What kind of dog was she? What did she look like?
It was a mutt. Hold on, let me look it up
I'm just
here.
Curious. She's little?
Yeah, she was little, like almost like a terrier or something. Okay. Like a Jack Russell mix of something or other.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it just said a mixed breed dog that was likely... No, 100%. One of this says likely Siberian Husky, or no, it 100% wasn't.
She definitely looks like a Jack Russell or some kind of hound, like
a terrier, sort of. She's definitely some sort. So even if she does, it's like far descendant of a Husky, but it's definitely some sort of like terrier
She's
mix.
Little. Yeah.
Yep. So that's episode 1 for us, guys. So next week, then, we're going to have a full-length episode, and then the week after that, we'll be back with Laura to talk about the second cosmic critter. Make sure to go follow us on Patreon and check out our YouTube, because I've been uploading all the episodes there.
With our faces.
I had to do last week's.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, for our faces. There's a way more fun. So make sure you guys go check us out on YouTube. If you just search Wildly Curious Podcast, same thing on Patreon to help support us so we can keep this going. We greatly appreciate it. Bye.